Good morning, Dianna. What have you heard? We spent a good portion of the morning before you joined us talking about the revenge aspect for Myles Garrett, Mason Rudolph, Kareem Hunt wing, and backing Garrett. What have you been hearing on both sides with regard to Garrett in this game?
Yeah, first off, guys, young people get up early, too. I'm on the show today, so, Key, you can take that. And you know, you guys were having that conversation about Baker Mayfield's ribs, and anybody that's listening right now that has ever had any bruising, running into a wall or perhaps maybe in a car wreck where their ribs were affected could definitely attest to the fact that a rib injury is really hard to deal with. It affects everything, the way you lift your arm, if you even laugh. So while Baker Mayfield isn't putting it in the category of being a serious injury, it's definitely something that can nag you and something that we're going to keep an eye on headed into Sunday. And, you know, just talking to the organization over the last few days about it, they feel the same way. He's going to be out there. He's going to start the game, but, you know, he's not 100%. But in terms of the Myles Garrett drama headed into this one, you know, I spoke to sources from both sides, and the owners of the Browns and the Steelers had a phone call this past week to just talk about perhaps what they want to make sure the messaging is in that locker room before the game, to make sure that this is about football, that there isn't going to be any vengefulness, there's not going to be any, clouded judgment out there that is not related to playing this game. So I thought that was really interesting, but just talking from the coach's standpoint and their messaging, of course, they're going to listen to their owners. But guys, I don't really get a sense that anyone is even thinking about this in or at least making it a priority headed into this game. Everyone's going to use what they can for an edge. We've seen it. Whatever they can take to keep themselves motivated. And you guys played the Kareem Hunt sound there saying, you know, we got Myles back. This is for Myles. But I can tell you definitely from the Steelers side of this, they don't care about any of this. And this is really about Mike Tomlin's leadership once again and making sure his guys are just going to be prepared. That's what's going to get them motivated to win this game.
Yeah, I don't think Myles Garrett's worried about that. He's moved on from the incident last year, Dianna. Let me ask you this. So you've been all over, obviously, this game, the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you learned something pretty surprising about Cleveland's offense. What was it?
Yes, I spoke to Kevin Stefanski about his philosophy, and I went into the conversation thinking, well, we're just going to have a very boring conversation about his run game, right? Because that's what they do. And he made it very clear that Odell Beckham Jr. is the focal point of the offense. We all think run. We think Kareem Hunt. We thought Nick Chubb when he was in there. But this is all about Odell Beckham Jr. He said, every time I'm writing up a play or coming up with a play, I want to get Odell the ball. In fact, I've done a bad job of getting Odell the ball early in these games, and that's what we're trying to get better at. So I thought that was really interesting. And look, some of this could be feeding the ego of a wide receiver. We know Stefanski had to deal with Diggs in Minnesota. I know how this works, Key. I cover enough receivers with these egos that you don't have one at all, by the way. The viewers can't, or the listeners can't see my face, but I'm basically making a face like, yeah, right. Stefanski just the focus, obviously, they're always going to rely on the run game with Baker Mayfield as they continue to build his ability, his movement outside the pocket, his accuracy, bootlegs, rollouts. These are things that Baker Mayfield wasn't doing a lot of, in the Freddie Kitchen days. So, Stefanski was explaining to me some of this is almost like starting over with Baker. And he's, look, the fourth quarter is a bit sloppy right now, but so far Stefanski seems to be really confident in keeping Baker reserved and almost keeping this a very conservative look right now. But make no mistake, we saw last week against the Colts, Odell Beckham Jr. is becoming the decoy again. And it's why Jarvis Landry has been able to get open as much as he has. And I think we're going to see that again this weekend against the Steelers.
Dianna, speaking of OBJ, what is the latest update on Odell Beckham?
Okay, so here's what I learned late last night. The league has now changed the protocol for all players and staff members from each organization. So essentially, if you have any sign of anything that means that you don't feel well, a cough, anything uncomfortable where you're not 100%, you are sent home immediately. So before yesterday, that wasn't really the case. I've covered a lot of teams this year where they had players in their facilities who weren't really 100% and they were still there. So this is a great move by the league to make sure that nobody is getting sick. We have flu season here now. This is another concern. So players like Odell Beckham Jr., who I was told showed up not feeling well, was sent home and also tested for not just COVID, but for the flu. So we don't know exactly what the results are, and we'll probably know later today what the results of his COVID test were. But I can tell you, he probably took those rapid tests yesterday, and if we haven't heard anything from the organization yet, then he's probably clear from COVID. But right now, everyone is being really conservative and making sure they're being really smart with the health of these players.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.